Was it a week ago? Week and a half ago, Kelly? Yeah, about a week and a half ago. I'm on Facebook and I see this person, Kelly Ryan. She's doing a talk in Conifer. And I thought, man, I've wanted to meet her. And then she said she wanted to meet me, and which was kind of cool. And so we were just talking, and I went to go listen to her speak up in Conifer. And I mean, she was so gracious. She gave me some time to like be a part of her. It wasn't even a panel discussion, but she turned it into one for 10 minutes or something. I got to talk about interventions and my book, and I was really honored for that. So thank you for doing that. We're all in this together, right? And so really grateful that she's here, because I said, hey, Kelly, I think you need to be a speaker at my event. Are you available? And she's moving right now. Like, her world is upside down, but she took the time to come hang out with us tonight and has a really powerful story about her life and her sister's life and just the things that go on there. So come on up, girl, and proud of you. She has a new book out as well, called Warrior Sisters, and so she's going to talk about that. Be careful. I should have come over there and helped you up. Hey, we live and we're learning. So over to you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Rob. Wow. Some really powerful testimonials. And I'm so honored to be here tonight and to be part of Rob's event. And it's so creative. And I really thank you for the invitation. I also want to congratulate you, Rob, on writing the addiction intervention book, because I know that it's going to help a lot of families and a lot of professionals and really make a difference in this world. And that's what we're all about. That's why we do what we do. And in listening to the other testimonials tonight, I'm reminded that God does for us what sometimes we cannot do for ourselves, and also delivers much more than I could have ever in my life and my family's life I could have ever imagined. So my role models as a kid, I have 3 sisters and my mom and dad. My role models around alcohol, my first one was my father, and he was a daily drinker and an alcoholic. He died of cirrhosis of the liver at 76, and he was very estranged from his family at that time. When we were small, his behavior was very unpredictable, and our home was chaotic, and there was a lot of violence in the home. And so that was role model number 1 around what alcohol is, or what it looks like, or what happens when you drink it. My second role model around alcohol was my sister, my oldest sister. And Karen and I have always been very close. I have 3 sisters. And as the oldest, when she took her first drink at 14, she drank alcoholically. She threw up, she blacked out, and she drank that way from 14 to 53, had periods of time where she seemed to be abstinent or in recovery, only for us to find out that she was taking Xanax and opiates, and eventually lived in a drug-induced psychosis from crack cocaine for many years. And so, and as an adolescent, and my oldest sister, she was in and out of psychiatric hospitals from 14 to 18. And that was back in the day where they kept you 6 months to a year. And so the chaos in our family, you know, my mom would get us in the car, and, you know, we'd go to these group therapy sessions in psych hospitals, and no one really knew what to do with her. It was in the late 70s. So she pretty much had every diagnosis possible, did lots of self-harm and bizarre things. So in terms of alcohol, I would say my dad and my oldest sister were on the right-hand side of the bell curve. There was no normalcy around alcohol in my home, although that's how I was raised and that's what I thought was normal. My first high school experience as a freshman, the principal actually called me into his office and gave me a stern talking to, and told me that under no circumstances would my behavior be tolerated if it was anything like my sister's, and that they would be watching me. And so that was my introduction to my freshman year of high school. And let me tell you, after those experiences, I really had zero desire to drink alcohol. I didn't want to cause my mom any additional pain. I saw what alcohol did, and it didn't look like fun to me. It looked kind of stupid. So, I remember swearing that I would never become an alcoholic in my teenage years. And I never drank through high school. As a matter of fact, I graduated a year early from high school, and I graduated with my other sister, who's my Irish twin. We're 11 months apart. So for me, high school was the beginning of living in the shadows of my sister's addiction for many years. It also was a pattern for me of perfectionism, high performance, overachieving. And I did that really until I got sober at 42. I got my master's degree. I became a licensed marriage family therapist, and I dedicated my life to making a difference with family systems, working with adolescents and young adults and families, and sometimes all the while drinking. My disease was slow and progressive and caught me off guard. Drinking was fun for me until it wasn't. And I lived in Southern California and met my husband there, and I used to be a special ed teacher, and we had a lot of fun partying. And somewhere along the way between my 30s and 40s, I crossed the line between what was fun, dependency, and then what became addiction. And the first time I asked for help, I went to see a pastor. He actually wrote a book, Anyone Anonymous, Applying the 12 Steps to Daily Living. And I thought he would be a good person to go to and ask whether I might have a drinking problem or not. And he said, well, what does your husband think? And I thought, well, that's kind of sexist. But why is that the first question you're asking me? But what I realize is often family members will be willing or able to see that you have a problem way before I was willing to see that I had a problem. And that's really where the question was coming from. So anyway, for 9 years, I went in and out of 12-step programs. I had drawers full of 30-day chips. I would convince myself that I wasn't like the other people in the room. I couldn't relate to them. And I thought they were losers. And I'm one of them now. But I just couldn't relate to them. And I hadn't lost a job. I hadn't gotten a DUI. I hadn't had a lot of external consequences to my drinking. And I had a job actually in the mental health and substance abuse field where I marketed to psychiatrists and referral sources, and I had an expense account to entertain them and drink with them. And for a while I really thought, I hit the jackpot. It was a lot of fun. Traveled the country and drank with referral sources. Anyway, so somehow we find a way to feed our addictions, and that was mine. The largest external consequence that I had was when I had been married 15 years, my husband was going to leave me, and we had done a dance for many, many years around me saying that I was going to get sober, taking efforts to try to do so and not doing it. And I knew that he meant it. And I didn't get sober for him, but at the same time, I really valued our relationship, and I didn't want to get a divorce, and I didn't want to lose my husband. And it also was a great act of love, the way that he addressed it and the way that he handled it was probably the most loving thing anyone's ever done for me. And I repeat that often because I think that family members struggle with how to support their loved ones with active addiction. So I just got the two-minute warning. So I'm going to say a few things. I think what we're seeing tonight, and actually what I wrote in my notes and what I wanted to make sure that I share with you, is that the power of sharing our personal experiences and the value that has for people, because it does take courage and it does take vulnerability and it does take having a risk. And so I had talked about having a call to action, and I'd like to challenge everybody here tonight over the next week to take a risk, to show some vulnerability and share your story. Of course, use some discernment and judgment around that with who you share it with, but I guarantee you there'll be some unexpected gifts that come with that, with taking the risks. The other last thing I'll close with is my sister and I wrote our memoir last year. Actually, yesterday was 1 year that we published our book, Warrior Sisters. And I've had the opportunity to do a lot of community outreach. And what I found is that people are hungry for information and seeking solutions. And they're desperate to help their loved ones struggling with addiction. They want to hear other people's experiences in recovery that can demonstrate hope and circumstances when they've seemed hopeless. And they want to share in the restoration and the healing of their family. And they want to leave interactions feeling motivated, feeling inspired, and knowing that if it's worked for me, it could work for other people. Thank you very much.